We live in an era of complexity and disruption, but business leaders must be able to act with confidence, even in the face of uncertainty. And to do that, they need to understand much that's changing in the global economy today. Let's start our story back in the early 1980s, when modern globalization really kicked in. From that point, cross-border trade increased year over year at about twice the rate of global GDP. But that ended with the financial crisis in 2008. Since then, trade has rebounded a bit, but it's not yet close to returning to growth rates double that of global GDP. Global financial flows haven't yet returned to 2007 levels either. Economic globalization has undoubtedly suffered a setback in recent years, and there remain challenges to its recovery. Take, for example, the BRIC economies, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Since the turn of the century, they have collectively quadrupled their GDP. But whether they can sustain such high levels of growth is now quite uncertain. New geopolitical tensions have arisen. Russia and Ukraine, conflicts in the Middle East, some tensions between the US and China. New alliances between emerging countries are challenging the historic influence of the developed Western economies in establishing the global rules. We're even seeing pressure on the global open internet as governments put up impediments to control the flow of information. There are today, really for the first time since the internet became a meaningful phenomenon in business, some important uncertainties about the role it will play and how global it will actually be. Long-standing processes of trade liberalization and opening up are also less certain today. We're seeing clear evidence of backdoor protectionism, not based on tariffs like the old measures. Today's protectionism is based on things like security concerns, local labor laws, local contractor regulations. The measures are proliferating, and they're not coming only from developing economies. For growth-seeking businesses, these dynamics obviously make global moves more complicated. But paradoxically, global opportunities are increasingly important, thanks to three key trends. The first is demography. Today, more than half of the world's people live within this circle. Since 1950, the percentage of the global population living in the developed world has been in steady decline and will continue to decrease, as approximately 70% of the growth between now and 2050 is likely to occur in 24 of the world's poorest countries. Second, demographers are also tracking the phenomenon of urbanization. In 1950, less than 18% of people in emerging economies lived in cities. Today, almost half do. Cities are rich with opportunity and hold tremendous growth potential. Third, we're seeing a radical drop in the number of people living in extreme poverty. Now, the vast majority of those rising from the most desperate subsistence level of living remain very poor indeed by the standards of developed economies. But they're rising at least into the category of people living at the base of the pyramid, beginning to enter into economic activity. And it isn't just the production side of the economy. The shifts in consumption will also be phenomenal. A study by the US National Intelligence Council projects very dramatic shifts in consumption, even over the period between now and 2020, never mind 2030, let alone 2050. The center of gravity of the global economy has been changing, and we're close to a tipping point right now. Expect 1 billion more new consumers to join the low end of the global middle class in the next decade. That's more than the entire population of North and South America combined, or greater than the entire European Union. Many of these new consumers will only have an income of around $10 per day per person, so they are, and will likely remain for some time to come, far poorer than the Western middle class. But they're also likely to get wealthier over time. there's going to be a whole wave of innovation to get costs down and offer real functionality, as well, of course, as addressing sustainability concerns. This is certainly a challenging time to be a business leader, but equally, there might never have been a more exciting, opportunity-rich time as well. History is in motion. Long-standing assumptions about how the world works, based on centuries of experience following the Industrial Revolution and the rapid separation of the developed and underdeveloped worlds, are increasingly out of date. Innovation is now starting to come from everywhere, as is investment capital. Powerful new businesses from emerging market economies are becoming increasingly competitive and providing new leadership in many industries. A new massive middle class around the world is driving a large proportion of growth in consumption and, being still less affluent than those in developed economies, have different needs, different demands. The rules of global trade, the accepted roles of government, the social license to operate for corporations, all of these are being established from multiple places today, driven by diverse values and cultures. The global business landscape is transforming in front of our eyes, and companies must keep evolving their global strategies as a consequence to capture new opportunities and address new challenges.